Welcome to Oryx Learning. Today's lesson is on Unit 1, Real Numbers, Lesson 8, Roots. Saad recently purchased a farm that includes a goat pasture. The pasture is 144 meters squared. How much fencing will Saad need to put a new fence up around the pasture? So if you would like to know the answer to this question, follow along with the lesson and we'll revisit it at the end. The square root of a number is one of two equal factors. Numbers such as 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25 are called perfect squares because they are squares of integers. The square root is denoted with the radical symbol, as shown here. Every positive number has both a positive and a negative square root, right? Usually written as plus or minus. In real-world situations, only the positive or principal square root is considered. A cube root of a number is one of its three equal factors. Numbers such as 8, 27, and 64 are perfect cubes because they are the cubes of integers. The cube root is denoted with the cube root symbol. Both positives and negatives can have cube roots, and the cube root of a positive number will always be a positive. The cube root of a negative will be a negative. So for our first example, if we would like to evaluate 4 to the third, remember 4 to the third has a base of 4, and it's going to be used 3 times. So that base will show up 4 times 4 times 4, and 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Evaluate 2/3 squared. So we can use the power of a quotient property to simplify this, making it 2 squared over 3 squared, and then take those bases and use them 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, so 2/3 squared is 4 over 9. Next, we want to evaluate the cube root of 0.027. So we're looking for perfect cubes, right? We know that 27 is a perfect cube because 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So the cube root of 27 is 3. Therefore, the cube root of 0.027, needing 3 decimal places, 1 for each root, would just be 0.3. So the cube root of 0.027 is 0.3. Evaluate the square root of 16. So the square root of 16, we know that 4 times 4 is 16. And remember, a square root has an index of 2. Even though it's not shown, it's assumed to be there. So we're looking for groups of 2 of the same number, in this case 4 times 4. So therefore the square root of 16 is just 4. In order to solve an equation such as a squared equals 9 over 25, we can follow the steps. If we want to solve for a, we must isolate the a. In order to isolate the a, we can take the square root of both sides of the equation, right? The opposite function of a square is a square root. So taking the square root of both sides of the equation and simplifying, remember the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 25 is 5. So the square root of a squared equals the square root of 9 over 25 simplifies to just 3 over 5. And because it's an even-powered root, we'll include that plus or minus. So a equals plus or minus 3 over 5. Our next example, the area of the floor in a square room is 121 meters squared. Find the length of one side of the room. Well, the area, we can use the s squared, right? S squared is 121. That's what the area that they give us. Take the square root of both sides to isolate the s. The square root of 121 is plus or minus 11. Now, as stated in the beginning, in real-world situations, in this case, the length of the side of a room, we only want to consider the positive answer. So the side of one of the rooms, the length of one of the rooms, is 11 meters. Right? It doesn't make sense to have a negative length, therefore only the positive is considered. So let's go back to Saad. Saad purchased that farm with a pasture that's 144 meters squared. How much fencing will he need? So very similar to that last problem, we'll take the square root of 144, which gives us plus or minus 12. And because it's a real-world problem, the length of the fence, we will just look at the 12, the positive 12 meters. But that's not what the question asked for. The question asked for how much fence will he have to put up, which is the perimeter. Perimeter is 4 times that length, 1 for each side. So 4 times 12 would give us a perimeter or a fence length of 48 meters. Saad would need 48 meters of fencing to fence in his farm. So in conclusion, a square root of a number is one of its 2 equal factors. If x squared equals y, then x is the square root of y. And a cube root of a number is one of its 3 equal factors, meaning if x cubed equals y, then x is a cube root of y. That is our lesson on roots. Thank you for joining us.